In the mid-20th century, an entire American city was turned into a giant secret laboratory, and its residents were the unwilling subjects of a massive human experiment. This isn't a plot from a dystopian novel. It's the real, documented story of St. Louis, Missouri. For years, the U.S. military conducted a series of covert operations, spraying a mysterious fine powder over large, densely populated areas of the city, especially in predominantly low-income, black neighborhoods. Imagine looking up and seeing military planes flying unusually low, releasing a strange, metallic-tasting dust that settles on everything: your car, your home, your children's playground. Residents were told it was a harmless smokescreen, a test to see how the city could be shielded from a potential enemy attack. But what they weren't told was what was actually in that smoke. The substance was a compound of zinc cadmium sulfide, a chemical the military believed was inert and would be a good tracer to simulate the dispersal of biological weapons. They wanted to understand how a bioweapon attack might spread through a major American city. So, they set up monitoring stations on rooftops, in schools, and even in public housing projects like the infamous Pruitigo complex, to track how far and wide the particles would travel. The people of St. Louis had no idea they were part of this massive experiment. They weren't asked for their consent. They were simply exposed. The government documents, declassified decades later, paint a chilling picture. The project was codenamed Operation LAC, which stands for Large Area Coverage. The goal was to see if a fine aerosol could be spread over a 1,000 square mile area. And St. Louis was the perfect testing ground. Why St. Louis? Its unique geography, weather patterns, and dense urban population made it an ideal model for other major cities like New York or Los Angeles. The military saw it as a scientific variable, not a community of living, breathing people. The chosen neighborhoods, like the North St. Louis area, were not random. They were selected in part because they were poor and predominantly African American. Researchers at the time disturbingly noted that they thought these residents would be less likely to ask questions. It was a cynical calculation that exploited systemic inequality. For years, the residents of these neighborhoods experienced unusually high rates of health problems. There were clusters of cancer, respiratory illnesses, and birth defects. Children played in the chemical dust. But for decades, they had no answers. They just knew something was wrong in their community. Thanks to the persistent work of investigative journalists and concerned academics. Lisa Martino-Taylor, a sociologist, spent years digging through thousands of pages of declassified documents, piecing together the horrifying reality of what happened. Her research revealed not just the use of zinc cadmium sulfide, though they claimed the levels were too low to be harmful. This revelation was a bombshell, but had potentially exposed them to radioactive material without their knowledge or consent. When confronted with this evidence, the Army's official response was that the chemical was considered safe at the time and that the tests were a matter of national security. The government's own safety standards for cadmium exposure have become much stricter since the 1950s. The argument that it was safe by the standards of the day offers is a powerful and disturbing reminder of what can happen when national security is used to justify the violation of citizens' rights. It raises profound ethical questions. What is the government's responsibility to its people? Is it ever acceptable to conduct experiments on the public without their informed consent, even in the name of safety? Community leaders and activists in St. Louis have been fighting for answers and accountability for years. They demanded a comprehensive health study to determine the long-term effects of the spraying, and an official apology from the U.S. government. They want recognition of the injustice that was done to their community. So far, their calls have been met with a wall of official denial and delay. The legacy of the St. Louis experiment is a deep and abiding distrust of the government in the communities that were targeted. A story of a city that was betrayed by the very institutions meant to protect it. It serves as a chilling lesson from history, a stark example of a dark chapter in the Cold War that played out not on a foreign battlefield, coup, but in the backyards, schoolyards, and streets of an American city. Thank you for watching. If you found this story important, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history's forgotten chapters. Stay curious and stay informed.